Hi, Lindy.
Hello, Dina.
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Good. Thank you
So,
for doing this interview. So let's begin somewhere. Let's begin somewhere with to do with the law firm that Mandela worked for. You
yes.
have
Well, first of all, it was unusual for not too many uh, Africans or Black South Africans went to graduate schools, got law degrees or even medical degrees. Very few. Um, and uh, anyway, Nelson Mandela did get a law degree, but then he couldn't be taken into a law firm. So a Jewish group took him in as a to do his what was it called? You know, his practical law training. And one of the partners was a man called Sadelsky, and otherwise he wouldn't have had that opportunity. He would have had the degree without the practical training and the acceptance into a law practice.
Mandela
So,
had a lot of good friends that were white South Africans that were Jewish that helped him along the road,
yes,
correct?
I like that statement. Yes, that's the umbrella. And then, of course, his in his trial, um, Sidney Kentridge was his lawyer, and Sidney was Jewish, and um, Sidney had to leave, I think, South Africa at that point. He went to live in England. People didn't voluntarily go to live in England. I think he must have had tremendous pressures and was being watched and probably suspect as a result. They went to live in England. Sidney has since been knighted, and his wife was a major fundraiser for South African liberal causes.
How about your role, Lindy? Like, what did you,
Well,
tell
I
us some
didn't
of
do
your
anything with
memories?
I didn't do anything with Mandela, but I was a member of the Black Sash, which was a women's organization which protested uh, the terrible things during apartheid, and they wore black sashes and stood on corners and held placards up. And I worked in the advice office for a couple of years when I had young children, and I had been a teacher before that. And actually, I went to a school that was particularly liberal, um, where we had an African night school. It was St. Mary's DSG, and I'd seen that as an example. And so I joined the advice office, giving advice to women who wanted to join their husbands in the city. You couldn't even visit without a pass.
And they were domestic workers that were in the city and their children were in the country with their grandparents.
Yes, there
Right.
was that too.
Yeah.
And but otherwise, it was a failed relationship. There was no relationship if the wife didn't come to the city. And so I remember writing many of those letters of appeal for wives to come and see their husbands, to come and bring the children to visit, to come and try and find domestic work. But it was the breakdown of the family otherwise.
Right.
The
Right. And you
men,
were a teacher at the night school, right?
I was a teacher actually. They had an advice office, and then I also worked at an African night school, one of the churches, but I think it was sponsored by the Black Sash, and so I had quite well educated people trying to write matric and finish off their schooling, and I had some of those letters that I read to you.
Yeah.
And I asked them for descriptions of being held up and thrown into jail for simply not carrying a pass or being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Were you
And
surprised or were you shocked when you read that, or did you know what was going on?
I knew what was going on. We all did. And we would see the Black Mariah coming into our houses, coming to check up on servants' quarters in particular, to see who was there from the country, who shouldn't be there. Oh, that sort of, it was an ugly, terrifying business as a child, to see this black van rolling up into the up the driveway and just pell-melling into the servants' quarters and checking under beds and pulling people out of the rooms who shouldn't be there.
What would you hope for this exhibition to encourage?
Well, I like the way the Holocaust Museum is doing the exhibition.
Memories of that you have? Anything that's
these terrible, tempestuous invasions of servant quarters, walking down the street in Pretoria, which was particularly an Afrikaner stronghold, and seeing the police chasing a black man, throwing him to the ground, unnecessarily, openly arresting. It was, my sister and I were horrified at that. We were young women at the time, and this was not uncommon. It had lost all human proportion. You know, it was, if people of color were bad and people who weren't white were good. That's what seemed to have happened.
all right.
Okay,
Excellent.
goodbye.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.